have to leave for whatever reason, it is going to be recorded. So thank you, Amber. Pam, are you ready to go?
Uh-huh.
Great. And you can see this presentation, the slides. Okay, Pam?
Yep.
Awesome. Okay, well, thank you for being here again. Pam and I are going to present on the foundations of dementia caregiving today. It's important that you know what you need to know and where to go for help. So since this is an Alzheimer's and dementia caregiving conference, we thought we should put something specifically in there about that. Again, Pam Kahlberg, Dementia Care Specialist, and I will be presenting today. I'll let Pam introduce herself. If you want to go, Pam.
Just that both Tina and I do kind of outreach. We meet with people individually, or we do trainings, with businesses, that kind of thing. We're here for support groups. We do memory cafes, and we'll talk about that at the end. But I work in Grant Green, Iowa, and Lafayette counties with the ADRC.
Great.
Nice to see
And
you.
I work for the Alzheimer's and Dementia Alliance, and I serve Rock and Greene counties. And virtually, we serve a lot more than that right now, which is wonderful.
Good to see you.
Topics that we'll cover today: foundations of dementia care, how dementia affects the whole person. We're going to talk about adapting the environment, how you communicate, how you listen, and how you interact with the person with dementia, and what help and supports are available. So the foundations of dementia caregiving. It's important to know that the changes we see in someone with dementia are caused by a brain disease that the person with dementia cannot stop or control. These are concrete things you can do to help the person who has dementia. There are, and that's what we're going to talk about a little bit later. They are not able to change, but we can. So we will share those tips with you. And also, you will need help and support from others. We do not expect as a caregiver for you to do this alone. Implementing some of these things that we suggest may not be easy. We understand that. When we've known someone a long time and we've established patterns of how we relate to each other, our defined roles and certain expectations of others, for example, how we already communicate with them, how we interact with them, and who's in charge of what, maybe in the household, those are going to need to change. And those can be ingrained patterns that we recognize may be difficult to rethink and adapt to. We'll need to learn to interact and respond in some situations, however, differently than we're used to. We'll need to be more mindful, pay attention to what's happening around us and what we're doing and saying so that we can respond in a helpful and appropriate way. Let's look more closely at each of these points. Dementia is caused, again, by brain disease that affects the whole person. The person may look healthy, but that person's brain is getting worse with time. This can be a difficult adjustment for us to think in our thinking, because the disease can often sneak up on us unexpectedly and gradually. We're continually having to adjust our expectations of the person over time. And the person may look just the same as ever. He or she might be perfectly healthy, except for the dementia. So to make it even more challenging, the person will have good days and bad days in terms of their ability to function and understand. You can't predict how each day will go. It's important to remember, especially when we are tired and frustrated as a caregiver, that the disease has taken control of the person. They cannot control that they're forgetful and making mistakes and errors of judgment, that maybe they're not following your instructions or remembering when you're trying to get them to do, or they're constantly repeating themselves. Again, the disease is in control, not the person. The person is doing the best that they can to get through their day, but using a faulty brain to do it. When our loved one slips up or gives us a hard time, might be tempted to think that we might be tempted to think that he or she is just not trying hard enough, or they're choosing to push our buttons and purposely trying to hurt or exasperate us. However, when someone has dementia, we need to start from the assumption that this person this behavior is due to the disease, or at least it's exacerbated by it. Blame the disease, not the person. Rather than label the person as difficult, stubborn, controlling, or mean, remember that he or she is coping with a disease that changes the brain and how it functions. So again, the person is doing the best that he or she can. You as the care partner can choose to adapt and change. The person with dementia cannot. So we need to adapt our expectations of the person who has a brain disease like Alzheimer's. The most helpful and kind thing to do is to assume they're doing the best they can, try to understand the situation from their point of view, see and accept the whole person as they are, not just as we would wish them to be, and look for ways that we can adapt and what we're doing and saying to improve the situation. You and those around you who support you and care can make a difference. It can be incredibly painful to recognize and accept someone that you love has a progressive and degenerative disease. That will only worsen over time, unfortunately. However, accepting this is the only way you will be able to make the changes necessary to provide the kind of loving, quality care that we all want to give and receive. It doesn't mean that there will never be any problems or challenges, but it does make room for the possibility for more meaningful moments and fewer arguments and frustrations. Let's look more closely at how dementia can affect the person. Dementia affects the whole person. The damage in the brain caused by dementia filters everything that comes into the person through the senses. It affects their ability to see, hear, and understand sensory information. They can't filter out extra stimuli, which can cause them to become confused or easily distracted and disoriented. So, for example, if there's too much noise or activity, the TV or radio being on, large family gatherings, going to church or going to a store is going to be more difficult for them. They also have difficulty accurately recognizing and perceiving what's going on. So they may confuse or not recognize objects. They may have difficulty distinguishing objects of similar colors. For example, when they're eating, a chicken breast and mashed potatoes on a white plate may be very difficult for them to see. They may misinterpret what's seen or heard. So a standing lamp to them may look like a person. They may see shadows or have hallucinations, which can also result in hallucinations or feelings of paranoia. They may lose the ability to recognize their sensations, such as pain or thirst, and you can't just ask them, "Are you hungry?" Visual spatial deficits also occur, problems with depth perception. So they're going to walk more carefully, they're going to have difficulty with steps, and they may not reach what they're actually trying to grab. To accurately understand what is being said for them can also be difficult. So following instructions or a conversation that you're trying to have with them, they may not know the words anymore, so they'll have a loss of vocabulary, may have difficulty keeping up with the pace of what you're saying, and may only catch up to only half of the words that you're saying. So make sure you say the most important things first. There's also a loss of abstract concepts. difficulty with time, money, relationships. This is someone who I know I love and who loves me, but I don't recognize that they're my husband or my wife or my daughter or my son. They still have that heart connection with you. Dementia affects the whole person. It affects what also goes out, so their words and their actions. Because of inability to take in information in the first place, if a person didn't get the right information to start with, it's going to affect how they respond. Impaired judgment, reasoning, and insight. They make poor decisions, don't recognize the consequences of their actions, or why something may be unsafe or not appropriate in a certain situation. So, for example, they may say or do things that they normally would not have done. They may have behavior changes. They may say things that are insensitive to others. Increased difficulty in word finding and following the track of conversation. So they may have difficulty completing a thought, or they may use a wrong word. It can lead them to have frustration, and the caregiver can also become frustrated. And an added challenge, energy and concentration that it takes to use a damaged brain to complete the normal everyday tasks of life that you and I take for granted can also lead to frustration and exhaustion. It takes more effort and concentration to do even some of the simplest tasks. The person will become more tired and frustrated just by trying to get through their normal day. So a disease impairs judgment, prevents them from being able to consciously change their actions and reactions. All of these changes can be exhausting for the person with dementia and for the family. Many may also make it difficult for them to be their best selves, or it may mean their best self has simply changed with the disease. Again, we can't expect them to continue to learn and to adapt, especially as the disease progresses. So what it boils down to is that we can't expect our loved ones to learn new ways to adapt once they have dementia. Their behavior is usually very rational and understandable given their altered perceptions and circumstances. We just need to see things from their perspective so that we can learn and change and adapt to better meet their needs and ours. There are real concrete things we can do to make a difference in the person with dementia's quality of life and in our own quality of life. But we need to be open to trying to understand dementia and open to looking at things in a new way and doing things in a new way. If we are set in our usual ways and expect things to continue to be the same as they have always been, we are setting ourselves and the person with dementia up for a lot of frustration and stress. We need to adjust our expectations of the person with dementia and of ourselves. Be realistic about what the person with dementia can still do and what he or she can't do. Be realistic with yourself. Nobody is perfect. You will make mistakes. You won't be able to do it all the time. Be gentle with yourself and with the person that you're caring for. It will make life easier for everyone. We can best help our loved one be successful by making the person's environment safer and easier to navigate, by changing the way that we communicate and interact, and by changing how we support people with dementia through incorporating routine and structure into our loved one's day and including meaningful activity and involvement. By making these adaptations, we not only improve the quality of life for our loved one, we also prevent some of the agitation and many of the behavioral responses that would otherwise make our roles as caregivers even more difficult. Now, Pam will talk about some of these specific changes that we can make in the environment, how we can communicate, and how we interact. Go ahead, Pam. You'll need to unmute yourself.
Turns out we all have to learn how to communicate over the Zoom a little bit better. So it's great to see you guys. I'm hoping everybody gets a chance to stretch, absorb the sun, be able to breathe and take it in. I think a lot of what we're going to talk about today is maybe something we've read before or heard before, but we really want to be able to be gentle with ourselves, just like our first speaker said. Really breathe and center ourselves and kind of absorb some thoughts about a new attitude or things that will make our job easier as caregivers. So first of all, as we kind of take on this caregiving journey, we sometimes want to remember some simple truths. And some of it is as we go about our day taking care of someone, is remember that it's really important to keep things familiar. This person is dealing with a disease that's kind of playing tricks on them, and they want to know where things are in the regular order. We want to rely on using that intact memory, that they are better at that long-term memory of where things are. Keeping things simple so they're not having to sort through a lot or struggle. Kind of streamlining so things are less confusing, a little bit more easier to find. And it's really hard to keep in mind that people have this brain disease that causes them to kind of constantly need to reorient to time and place and people. And even when they forget, it's not meant intentionally most of the time, that you want to kind of help them by clearing out the clutter, keeping things that you really want them to be able to find, kind of, with cues or visual images or words. Some regularly needed items you keep in a familiar place, keeping devices simple, sometimes using things like Alexa or other devices that help keep it, putting colors on buttons to keep it easier to use, like a microwave. So we all want to provide a safe environment because some people with dementia have trouble anticipating kind of the consequence of what they do, and they're no longer to be able to tell what's safe or unsafe. And then these abilities change over time. I think that's some of the frustration with being a caregiver, is just when you figured out a system, you think they understand, you think they remember basic things, and then it changes. So kind of keep breathing and think about, how can I sort of anticipate or rechange their environment to make it easier, simple, and safe, while at the same time letting them be independent. As human beings, we always want to feel we have a purpose and some independence, but how can you allow that in a place while balancing safety? So looking at things, there are lists out there of ways to sort of proof your home in a way that's safe. There's a lot of products out there, with alarms or lights or devices that say things to remind people of what to do. So that's important to use that as a way to kind of help remind this person what they need to be doing, whether it's medication or not touching something or putting a stop sign on a door you don't want them to go out of. So think of creative ways to kind of help that person negotiate that environment. And then when you want to tell them something, kind of look about the environment. Have I limited the distractions so there aren't radios or TV or other people talking, especially in large crowds that might be kind of overwhelming. I don't know your experience of Walmart when there's things being played overhead and people all around. Imagine if that was exaggerated. Sometimes we need to give people like a gentle touch to kind of get their attention and help their focus. Make sure that they can hear well, that there aren't other noises or other people. Look at where you are in the room. Does it have good acoustics? Can they hear? Because hearing is impaired, but also some people have hearing issues as well. Remember that this person's brain has changed, so their ability to perceive three-dimensional or light and shadow. It might be difficult to have a bright TV in a dark room. It might be the shadows outside might be distracting or unnerving. So is there a way that you can bring a curtain down or turn up the light? Think about, if they're anxious or pacing, is there some kind of comfort need? We always don't anticipate how much pain affects people. It all drains us a little bit. Maybe at night they're more tired and it's not a good time to talk about something new, like a appointment. You may think that they just ate, but there still might be this feeling of hunger or a sense of that they're supposed to be doing something. Um, More often that comfort is anxiety or distress because this person's trying to orient themselves. So is there something you can do to comfort? Simply holding a hand or hugging at an appropriate time or listening, even if what they seem to say is gibberish, maybe, what's their tone or their body language of what they're trying to tell me. Um, is there something familiar I can have them hold? Would it be helpful to be in a rocking chair that's soothing, or holding something familiar, doing something that they like that's familiar, letting people rummage, even if they're going to make a mess, do an activity and not finish it. All these soothing activities can help people feel a little bit more centered, and they maybe need that a little bit more than the rest of us at times. And then you want to prepare yourself. If you're about to present something that you'd like them to remember, think about your words. Are they simple? Are they direct? Is the environment not overwhelming? Can I cut down on the noises or the light in a way that they can really listen? And then prepare yourself, breathe, kind of go in with a relaxed attitude if you can. If it's something you anticipate some resistance, let's say they don't like taking a shower and you're about to present them with a shower. How can I be in a centered state so you can really listen and watch for their body language and their tone, especially if their words are jumbled? How can you really get a sense of what they're saying to you in their actions or in their gestures, as well as what you're trying to communicate? And these things are easy to say. It's another thing to do it in the moment when you're struggling with somebody that you thought you knew well, and yet they're changing because of this disease. So give yourself some patience and some slack, but look at how can I present myself in a way that's calm as I'm reassuring somebody that might feel not calm. So if somebody's confused and looking for reassurance, give them those cues that things are okay in your body language and your tone of voice. Um, think about how can I convey what I want to say, not only in words, which most kind of dementias struggle with words. So how can I show it in my face, my body language? How can I show them that there's something exciting happen or something that they could look forward to? And then speaking slowly and clearly and simply. Again, easy to say when you're feeling tired or stressed, but see, think about, maybe prepare yourself in a way, look in the mirror, see that you can really be present for this person and understand maybe if they're resisting what that's about. Look at maybe, am I saying too much? Am I putting all those extra words in that might be confusing for them to translate? Remember that they may only catch half the words we're saying, or that they feel like people are talking over them and they're not part of the conversation, because we all want to be engaged. Or maybe they're feeling a moment of being confused and they just want to listen. They don't want to answer questions because they're a little overwhelmed, and they withdraw at a time that you think you'd like them to speak to someone else. So think before you speak. Ask yourself, what's this likely reaction of this person? Will it be the same as yesterday? How were they feeling when they woke up this morning? Are they going to be able to deal with a lot of detail? Um, Try and stay positive. I don't know, those of you that raised teenagers know that the certain phrases you say can set off a negative reaction, um, things that instead of scolding and saying don't, or something that's feeling, if you feel that argumentative tone or that need to correct, maybe check yourself, because you might start to make your job a little harder. Um, as we always hear, you're never going to win an argument with somebody whose ability to reason is physically changed. That part of the brain that could reason and rationalize is fading. And so we can't necessarily explain things away. We have to present it in a positive way. Um, and then we need to adapt. So I plan afterwards to send out kind of a reminder. It's a little tip sheet. I know people who tape it in their bathroom. So when things are overwhelming, you can kind of withdraw and think, okay, what am I need to do when I'm gonna, what's not working here? What can I change myself? Rather than scolding that I got frustrated, I started yelling again, I maybe acted too rashly. What can I do to change it? Am I giving eye contact? Human beings are really connected to eye contact. That's why Zoom's great, right? Where we can see each other. Can I allow some extra time? Can I, if I'm going to say something or expect something to be done, can I put in some extra time there? How can I reassure this person if they're not able to focus, or they're seeming like they're frustrated? How can I do it in a tone of voice, some touch, something I can give them to hold? And watch their body language and expression. Again, as human beings, we're less about words and more about physical expression. Can I give them some cue and say, do you want this or this? Can I show them something? Can I listen for some feelings? Are they feeling frustrated? Do they have some need? They're maybe distracted by their wanting to go to the bathroom, and yet you're talking to them about something important. So how can I anticipate that? How can I adapt? And again, this list of respect, empathy, and patience, a word we've heard a lot over the last couple of days, right? Can we also not only show that to this person, but I think to ourselves? Am I, no matter how your ability deteriorates, how can we need to realize that this person's an individual, they're an adult, and anybody can tell if you're talking down to them or you're treating them like a child or you're taking something away. We pick that up in people's tones of voice. We're very attuned to that. So how can I show this person respect or empathy or patience just in the way I say my words, just in the way I present myself, just in the way I give them attention as they're talking. So we forget that. And sometimes it can be in a moment of frustration, you're in a hurry, you need to go somewhere, and we say things. We maybe say things in a way that can be upsetting or hurtful. And we can always apologize. These people, anybody can understand if we're trying to appeal to their better selves and give ourselves that same um, respect and empathy. Um, and then we want to empathize with that person to remember that what they're going through. Um, we all want to feel we pride ourselves in our ability to be self-reliant, kind of make our own decisions and take care of ourselves. But when someone with dementia becomes increasingly unable to do that, um, we kind of have to think about as we take on more and more, because they're not able to do that, how are we conveying to them that they can accept our help? Many people are comfortable as caregivers. We don't like to take over control of somebody that we've been partners with for years. But we have to think, how can we start to take it over in a way that doesn't feel like bullying or coming on or kind of ordering them around? It's kind of a progressive things. With some kinds of dementia, you have time to get used to that role. But sometimes things change on a dime, and we have to be able to adjust to that and have to be able to take over and kind of increase our level of control. We want to provide structure and routine. That's especially important right now during this COVID time, to feel that things are familiar and we have a certain flow to the day. They might not remember what's happened from day to day, hour to hour, but that sense of this happens, then we get to do that, even if they can't recognize times or dates. Use that habitual memory that we all have of kind of a flow of the day, make things less confusing. Sometimes we have to help people get started with a task. Initiation is actually something we have in our brain that may be fading. And so we need a starting step or a cue to get us started in activities. Remember that there's ways we can sort of plan out activities. When we want to help people make a decision, we want to give them some input into it, but we also may need to recognize that we are the ones that have to ultimately make the decision. It's that balance between doing enough, but not too much. Sometimes it's a matter of kind of doing things behind the scenes. Maybe you let them address the envelopes or write the checks, but we go back and correct the things that maybe need to be fixed up a little bit. You include the person kind of in the activity without making them too anxious about what to do, kind of as you help them along. So as we adapt, we need to become a little bit more flexible. And I'm going to let Tina take it from here. I think we're switching.
Figure out how to unmute myself.
There you go. We're all learning how to communicate in these new times, aren't
Sure. Yeah. So being a flexible problem solver. So this really, most of us pride ourselves on our ability, again, to be self-reliant and to make our own decisions and to take care of ourselves. However, someone with dementia becomes increasingly unable to control over most aspects of their daily living and their decision making. It then falls on the role of a family caregiver or other members to do this. Many people are uncomfortable, however, in this new role. And taking control is, again, not about bullying someone or ordering them around. It's really about being a progressive process. I'm so sorry. I got lost in my own thing. So, being a problem solver, a flexible problem solver, is it a problem that even needs to be fixed? So, first of all, we need to identify, um, is it something that we feel like needs to be done? Is it something we just want to have done? We're going to need to figure out, whose problem is it? Is it our problem? Is it a problem for the person with dementia? And is it a problem that needs to be fixed? So it's important to identify what may be contributing to the problem. When a person with dementia becomes upset or agitated, you can identify something in one of these 5 areas. It might be in the environment. Too much might be going on. It could be too confusing or overstimulating. It might be frustration. The person with dementia can't do what they want to or what they're asked to do. And the task might be just too difficult. It might have something to do with their feelings. The person with dementia may be bored, depressed, afraid, which often comes from confusion, not knowing what's next, or they may be misinterpreting something. The person with dementia may be experiencing fatigue. They could be overtired and they might just need rest. And also, it may be something physical going on. They might be in pain, they might be hungry, thirsty, or just be, in discomfort in general, but they can't express it to us. So once you have an idea of what's causing the problem, try something then to address the issue. It may work and it may not, but try something. You may be surprised at the result. If it doesn't work today, try something else or try again tomorrow. Sometimes things work better at different times of the day or with a slightly different approach. And sometimes it may have to come from a different care partner. Um, if you have someone else that you can bounce ideas off, that's really wonderful because it may be just that you have to try something different or someone else has to try something different. But we do encourage you to please try something.
Mhm.
Now I'm trying to get it to advance. It's always fun when it doesn't cooperate. Please be patient with me. I'm so sorry.
Right. We talked about not beating up yourself. We all have struggles.
I know. Let's see where we are.
Number 18.
There we go. So this is important. Um, you will need help and support, and Pam and I are going to talk about caregiving is a gradual transition. Your responsibilities will increase as the dementia or Alzheimer's increases. You can't put your life on hold while caregiving. Find ways to care for yourself and maintain a strong support network. So, who can provide, someone that can come in and help provide you a break? It's also important that maybe you find a support group that works well for you, a caregiver support group. Um, it doesn't have to be anything big. You just need to find something that works for you. Even if it's 5 minutes to go out into the garage and scream in a pillow or, um, you know, punch a punching bag, something that's going to give you some relief from your caregiving duties. I forget sometimes to breathe, and I know that was one thing in Carrie's talk today. She said sometimes we just need to stop and take a couple deep breaths.
Yeah.
We forget when we're in the caregiving role, and anytime we're under stress, honestly. So it's important again that we find the supports. So Pam, do you want to talk
Yeah.
about?
And I think it's really important. I think sometimes we get so locked in that we're taking care of our mother or we're taking care of our wife or we're taking care of, somebody we've known a long time and we've always done this together. And we forget that it really takes a village to take care of someone. that we need to sort of seek out families and friends. And sometimes they're in places you least expect. Now that we're more homebound, maybe there's a neighbor or a friend. And remember, it's not always about, it might be coming in to sit in and visit with the person that you're taking care of, but it could also be maybe they take some duty off your plate, Meals on Wheels. And we'll be talking about some professional resources in a minute. Can there be somebody who, bakes something for you, or walks your dog, or does some of those other tasks that are part of caregiving, helping with laundry. So remember to think creatively about the people around you. Maybe there is somebody in your faith community that enjoys being with someone, older, or wants to visit. I think in Madison, in Monroe, there's a great parish nurse program. And so it really depends on your neighborhood, but sometimes it's being open to those offers of help, and um, being willing to say yes, being willing to try something of somebody else doing something that maybe we thought only we could do. There's in-home hair services. Right, there's an adult daycare program in Monroe, but that's on hold. But there's a lot of stuff on virtual, and maybe we felt resistant. It's great you guys were willing to try Zoom today, because a lot of things is online. But begin to stay open to things that people can offer to help just take things off your plate, so that you can replenish yourself and take time to take care of yourself.
Mhm. Yeah, and we are kind of all over the place in those who are attending today. So the adult day programs are open in some of the counties and
Right.
of the towns. And there's residential care. But one of the things that Pam and I will often talk about when we're doing caregiver groups and talks is making sure that you put your oxygen mask on first,
Mhm.
or you put it on the person you're caring for, because really it's important that caregivers are taking care of themselves so that they can be the best to take care of the person that has dementia.
And I think being open to I hear a lot of people say about the benefit of talking to somebody else going through the journey. So whether it's one thing to hear from us professionals, but also to find neighbors or friends or support groups. I think many people here were willing to try support groups, to hear from somebody else. Those little things, how do you get them in the bath? What if they're not eating? Those little problem solving things can often be just in a support group, um, to kind of hash out, what do I do when, what do you do when you feel this way?
Hmm.
It can be so helpful to hear from some other caregivers.
Yeah. But how do you find these resources? And that's a big thing. So for those in Illinois, I know there's the resource centers. And we also in Wisconsin have aging and disability resource centers. So the ADRCs, you'll often hear us call them by their acronym, which is where Pam comes to us from. Is she's in 4 different county ADRCs. Then also there's the Alliance. So the Alzheimer's and Dementia Alliance of Wisconsin, we're here to help, you know, pass on those resources. Uh, Pam said we were both similar in doing care consultations. A lot of those right now are over the phone or through Zoom. Right now, we could probably do a porch visit or meet in a park, but I don't know about in December or January how that's going to work. We offer support groups, education and training programs like these, and cafes. So, there's a lot of things that we can help you get up with what services that you need.
And I was gonna say, we want to hear from you. Like, we consider, if we're gonna do a memory cafe, do we want it to be virtual or in person, in the basement at the ADRC in Monroe? We need to hear from you what things might help. Are there resources? Sometimes you find out there are people who can do some of the jobs, or there are caregiver funds that can help you, give you a little bit extra to meet those things. So at the ADRC in Greene County, it is open. Let's say you want to, your loved one is at a nursing home and you want to be able to do Skype or something with them. They have a device or a computer you can come and borrow. So there's no dumb questions at the ADRC, or the Alliance. You can just say, hey, I was thinking this would help. Is there any way I can help get that? If you know of people that are concerned about their memories, we will do memory screens with you, both over Zoom or over, over a porch visit, just to say, how's my memory doing? Because stress affects our memory and that kind of thing. Maybe it's just calling one of us to vent. You don't always want more education. There's a lot of education out there, but maybe it's just a chance to say, this is hard. And I need to say, boy, this is really hard. So those individual consultations, or you have a family member that you think isn't getting it. And would it be good to talk to one of us or have us go on Zoom together and say, you got to realize this caregiving journey is difficult. This is what this person's dealing with. If maybe you have a family member that doesn't fully understand what the toll dementia can take on someone. Is there a business that you'd like us to educate so that they kind of get it when you come in, how to handle that person with dementia? Your bank, your pharmacy, whatever. We do trainings for people like that. We do book discussions. So maybe you've read something and you want to hear what other caregivers think of it, whether it's the Two Elaines or Dementia Reimagined, where there are book groups out there. I cannot underestimate the value that I hear from support groups. They're an hour, you jump on, you get to hear from other people what they're going through, and maybe ask some of those questions that you're kind of thinking in the back of your mind. There are more resources than you realize. They're there waiting for you to help. Is it, do I want to go to the Green County and find out what one of those fake pets help? Do I need, when I want to try this device to help remind us about medication? There's some things that a loan closet at the ADRC. So, or how does my benefits affected by this? All those kind of things can be answered. Like I said, there's no dumb questions, and find out what's out there. And we'd like to hear from you, what you'd need if you'd like to see something come back.
Absolutely. And now we'd like to know if you have questions for us. And we know that we just have a few minutes, 1 minute, and then we got to get in onto our next one. So Amber, are there any questions for us?
No questions, just a comment that it would be nice to see more support groups incorporate those adult children that have parents that are going through the journey, finding that a lot of support groups are spousal related, or the spouses are the ones that attend. So just a comment out there, but otherwise no questions.
And I can share that the Alliance does offer an evening support group for adult children. So, Noreen, are you on here? Do you want to share a little bit more about that group? And again, with it being virtual, it's so wonderful because people can attend from anywhere right now. You don't have to be in Madison for that group.
Right. So there's one of those hidden blessings. We might not like computers, but here's a virtual is letting us get places we couldn't before.
Well, and the nice thing is I think we're at the point right now that we need to reach out to people. And if virtual is the only way we can do it, thankfully we do have that resource. So I can send that information on when we send out. Pam has a handout for just kind of some basic strategies when communicating with someone, as well as I'm going to send the link out for this recording. So we'll send a follow-up email to all of you. Yeah. And there are resources out there, and we will get you linked up with those, definitely. So thank you, everyone, and thank you, Pam, for doing that.
One more question, Tina.
Okay.
Let's see here. Can you help form support groups in Northern Illinois if there's a need? Do you train people to lead the groups?
I do believe that Alzheimer's Association has a support group facilitator training. Tina, do you?
Yeah, definitely. Out of Rockford, the association
Janet's
is kind of, the closest one to the folks that we serve in Northern Illinois. And I can definitely do some more research on that. So, and send that along as well. So I'll take note of that, Sharon, and I will send that your direction.
Okay, good.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, everyone. We have one last speaker